Good evening, my name is Kelsey Broadway, and this is my Module 13 Reflection. Question 1 asks, after reviewing the copyright and fair use websites, which area surprised you the most as breaking copyright laws or not meeting the fair use criteria? I think after reviewing some of the material and going through the quiz, what surprised me the most was the fair use criteria for, say, video clips or news clips off of just regular newscasts on the TV, how long you can use them for and who you can show them to. For example, in one of the sections it talked about if you video a news clip, you can use it for up to 10 days technically after the original air date. One of the questions in the fair use quiz was something about the copyright on Seinfeld, so it would really depend on who actually holds the copyrights to the material, whether it's just a newscast or if it's a program such as Seinfeld or like Grey's Anatomy or something like that. The actual local television channel wouldn't have the rights to some of those programs. But again, still the 10-day time limit kind of surprised me. Also, it seemed that there was a lot more leniency for educational and non-profit purposes than there were for just general usage. So a student could video something and use it in a presentation. And actually, one of the other questions that surprised me kind of on the fair use quiz was that, say the presentation was put together and it won an award, then the teacher could take this presentation to a conference, and since it was still technically being used for educational purposes, they could use it there. So that kind of surprised me as well. Question 2, what examples have you experienced where educators have broken copyright laws or fair use policies? Is it really that big of a deal? Yes, it is a big deal, actually, and I had a class actually while I was in college, and it wasn't the instructor's fault, and they'd received permission from the publishers and the writers, but the new edition of the textbook that we had out, it wasn't available yet for about the first month of classes. So since they'd received permission, the publishers actually gave them the first few chapters to print, and I think they had to get permission because in one of the sites it said that as long as you use less than 10%, it's not technically against the rules to copy and hand out to students, but since this was going to be several chapters, the university and the instructor had to go ahead and get permission for this, plus they didn't have the files yet. So it's definitely a big deal. It can really disrupt whoever has the copyright or trademarks to a product or literary works even. It's not fair to them if they put all this time and effort into it and then you just go and steal it, basically. Question 3 asks, how did you score on the fair use quiz and what question surprised you? I actually took it twice. I went through the first time just to see what I knew, and it was pretty sad. I think I was at about 50%. So then I went back and read through the material again, really hitting on the questions that I missed, and a lot of them were about the educational uses for videos. And I think one of the questions that actually surprised me is, I think it was the question about the student taping 60 minutes every week just in case one of the teachers wanted it, and that they couldn't do that, and instead you could only use actual requests and not just potential requests. But it was a really good lesson overall, and it actually taught me quite a bit that I didn't already know. And that's my Module 13 reflection.